Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ibi Speaks. My name is Ibi and first and foremost, I want to thank and appreciate all of my subscribers and my faithful viewers. And if you're a first-time viewer and you're wondering, what's this channel all about? I'm going to tell you what this channel is all about. The channel is about encouraging, motivating, and informing you to make better and intentional decisions for yourself. And I do this by featuring everyday people like you and me, thought leaders, experts, to share their stories and their expertise, because I believe that our stories are not just ours to tell, but they are content enough to share, and they serve as streetlights and survival kits to help to illuminate the path of those coming behind us. If you're new to the channel, I started a series, Avoiding the Later Life Crisis series. And the series is aimed at sharing insights on how to do things better so that we don't end up with a crisis situation in future. And so I've had 4 episodes down my belt, down the line. And this episode is the 5th installment, and it's titled How to Organize Your Space to Maximize Your Quality of Life. And to do justice to this conversation is my special guest, holistic space manager, interior decorator, and the founder of Wellbeing Cognoscente. Is it?
Cognoscente.
You know this word, I practiced it. Uche, it's a lie. I practiced it. So Cognoscente.
There you go.
Izeogu. Uche.
Thank you, Binabo. Thank you so much. First things first, as someone who works with foundations before anything else, I thank you for the privilege, to share your stage with you. I don't take it for granted, and I'm humbled that you notice my gifts and think that they add value. So I'm here to serve you and your audience.
Thank you. Of course you do. Of course you do. So just quickly now, so at the end of this conversation with my guest, I hope that you'll be able to, one, identify your triggers, understand your tendencies, and recognize life-enhancing skills that you can bring into your space. And please, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibi, and you can follow me on my Instagram, Ibi, LinkedIn, Ibi, what's that again? Facebook page, Ibi, and on Twitter, Ibi. And I also have a website called ibinaboinebi.com. We have articles by guest writers and myself. And you can be a part of this conversation by leaving your questions in the comment section below if you're watching via YouTube or Zoom. And we'll be able to answer those questions. And listen, if you have private questions and you don't want anyone to know, if you're watching via Zoom, you can just send me private, send it to me privately, and I would read it out so that my guests can answer the questions. So before we start the conversation proper, Ucheju, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came about this magnificent space?
Okay, my name is Ucheju Izeogu, and my business is about well-being. Started off as an interior design. To be fair, it started off as making furniture because I used to do my own designs, and it's had a few pivots over the years, and it's become this business that is settled rather on wholeness, because I believe that all of life is integrated. And that has been the experience over the years, working with organizations, individuals, families, and hearing about the challenges that they face with, getting their house in order, and finding that there are quite a few families who children don't feel anchored in the home. So it's pivoted into this business that is set to help people, evolve their spaces as they themselves are evolving, so that everything about their life is integrated with the space to help increase the quality of their lives.
Wow, space.
Yeah.
Space, mental health, quality of life. Listen, I'm here to learn today, to be honest, like this. When I saw you on Facebook, you had this program you had with your brother, and I was glued to myself. I've never really quite, well, seen it the way you want to explain it today. So let me, begin by this simple question. What is holistic space design, and why do we need to have our spaces?
I think the best way to approach this will be to come, we have a mix of audience. There are some people who want to have facts. There's some people who just, paint a picture for me and I'm okay to go.
Yeah.
So let me start by saying that the word itself, holistic, is derived from a Greek word called, holos, which means whole. And it's the concept is taken from the word holism that was coined by the South African soldier and statesman Jan Christian Smuts in the 1920s. All he was trying to do was to explain the tendency in nature to form wholes that are greater than the sum of parts rather, right? So holistic space management is design that seeks to borrow that definition in applying the creative concepts, principles of design, solutions that draw from every aspect of the individual's evolution. I will give you an example. You have a child. The child was a baby at age, 7 months, you had a cot. When they're 5 years old, you need to transition to, the big child bed, like we used to say to my daughter, your big girl bed. And there are some homes, believe it or not, where a 16, 17-year-old still has her room painted in pink, designed for a 5-year-old's big girl room. And so you find that she's always out, always with her friends, because she doesn't feel anchored in her room. It's too young for her. She doesn't want to bring friends over. And those little transitions, that's the evolution of the person. It's not taken into account in the environment where the child or where the adults or where the whole family lives, then it doesn't serve everybody in the home. So holistically, apart from looking at the individual, it also looks at the individuals that share the space to ensure that everybody gets anchored within the space for their own mental well-being, as well as their own, optimizing their own life as well. So that's really, in a nutshell, what holistic space management does.
I'm taking notes, as usual. Okay, now, Uche, I know that you do quite a lot of work. And somebody who's listening to us would say, okay, so yes, everybody needs to be anchored in their living space. But do you have any thing to show us, like some of the work you've done, so we can quite understand what you mean? We want to have a visual representation of anchoring our space.
I can share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay, so can you see my screen?
I can.
All right, so let me start with, that's what we're called, the Wellbeing Cognoscente. And the word Cognoscente simply means an enthusiast, because we're enthusiastic about the tripartite nature of human beings and making sure that we can collectively pull all of your parts into your space, listening to you because you're the one who lives there, and to give a visual representation. Now, this is probably going to make more sense to people who live in colder climates where you have winter, summer, and all of that. But I will lock it in so that you understand the concept. In this space that you see here, it's a day and night time, but it's a winter time organization of a particular room. It's the same room. I'm going to show you what it looks like in the summer. And the reason for this is because the heating, which is what we need in winter, is right by the window. And the person likes light, but they're an introverted personality, but they like to be able to be connected to nature. So this room is organized to let in as much light as possible. Don't forget that time zones also, it becomes really dark very quickly and it stays dark longer. So if someone who likes to wake up at about 7 a.m., for instance, the sun will not wake them up. or the light will not wake them up, if you know what I mean. So that's how it's organized in this way. Now, when you move over to a different season, the same room, same person, because they don't want to be woken up by the light, we've reorganized the room in such a way that the light is coming from behind. She can still let the light in as much as she wants, but the light doesn't wake her up in the morning. And she also has use of this whole wall in front of her where she can put things that draw her attention to anchor her in the morning. And in this wall, you would see, information about, can you see the wall?
Yeah, can you just, can you use your cursor to just show so we see the wall? So I can see, so that people like carried along,
I'm not sure whether, okay, hang on.
Okay.
Well, it's not reducing for me. I'm not sure I have.
It's fine. It's fine. So,
but basically what's written across on that wall is a statement that says Psalm 46:10, be still and know that I am God. So this person, that's her anchor, right? And she wakes up first thing in the morning. That's what she sees. It doesn't matter what else is happening during the day. She set the tone for how she's going to leave her bedroom. She's decided who she's going to be before she leaves so it doesn't matter what phone calls come or whatever problems may come. That's the person's anchor. For someone else, it might be a picture. It doesn't matter what it is, but the bottom line is organizing a space in such a way that it feeds you, your personality. It gives you strength that you're able to manage what happens outside of your home, what happens at work, what happens based on the fact that your living space has anchored and tethered you to your own personality. It feeds you, you understand? So that's the whole concept of organizing for your personality, organizing for your well-being, organizing for optimization as well.
Now, Uche, can I just say something for the benefit of those, because I just kind of like have a light bulb moment, right? So this is the same room.
Yes.
The first picture you showed me, can you just go back to the first picture? The bed was on the wall.
Exactly.
Now, we didn't change, we didn't get new furniture or anything like that.
No.
It was just the same room. So in the first picture was the winter picture, right?
Yes.
So the bed was on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So to allow for, the window, the lights and all of that, right?
Yeah.
But again, for the summer and for summer, usually it gets brighter in the day.
Yeah.
Early. So we have
very early. 4 a.m. sometimes, 5 a.m. Exactly.
So if this person has the window facing her, her sleep pattern is distorted, because as early as 4 a.m. in the morning during the summer, at the start of the summer, the light just comes on your face, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So what you have done effectively then is to, without buying anything or getting expensive furniture, you just move the bed, reorganize the bed from the wall to the window. Yeah. So in that way, the blinds can cover the window, and the person can have sleep. Uche, do you know that if you didn't tell me this thing, it's as simple and as basic as this information is, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah, I will give you a caveat here, because a lot of designers would tell you that, and I do that as well, but it depends on, one, the space that you have, two, the already existing architecture of the space. If the window is in the biggest side of the wall and you have no other place to put your bed, then if you have a high headboard, it provides you that feeling of protection, because that's the only reason. It's not that there's something wrong with having your bed by the window, but it's like, because it's glass and it's not wall. Feng Shui concepts usually tell you and preach against it, and they say it means that your energy or your chi is escaping. you're blocking the flow of energy in and out. But different religions, different concept, different people. Bottom line is, because it's glass and it's not a wall, it's not as sturdy, and emotions, if you also, you probably would feel like you're not protected. But with a high headboard, and if your bedroom is upstairs, if it's not ground floor, then you're not afraid that somebody can just easily open the window and touch your head, or whatever. So those little concepts, these are little tricks that we use. That's what, when I say principles of design, what you see here is a principle of design in action, because the headboard has created the stability and the anchor that the person needs, so they don't feel like they're floating. And then it also stops, it sort of muffles the sounds that's coming from outside, which is another concern that people have about not putting their beds by a window. And then having thick drapes also adds to that barrier that supports the person's, the head from where it is. It already gives you, if you might have a problem, if your headboard is very low, then there are other principles of design that can be used to decorate, so that it gives you that. Bottom line is to give you the cushion, to give you the anchor, and to create the illusion of a firm backing for you. So that's what has happened here.
Okay, so what I just see here is, just by simply reorganizing a room,
yes,
the person's quality of life has just changed. Because I know that, during the summer, sleeping is a problem. Like, oh my gosh, the lights is in, but just simply rearranging the positionings of the bed, the person's quality of life is just set for the day.
Yeah. And apart from that, you, instead of the person changing their personality to adapt to their space, you change the space to adapt to you. You bought it with your own money. So why will the space dictate to me how I should live? This is me. I want to be able to see and connect to nature. So the light should not be what deters me. Right now, if I'm sleeping on this bed and I wake up at 7, it's already daylight and I want to connect to nature, all I need to do is look up. But the light didn't wake me up because it didn't fall on my face, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
even if the bed, so even if the bed was arranged on another side and not exactly parallel to the window, if the window is open and it's daylight at 4 a.m., it will come in, except you have blackout blinds and it's down. So for me to see light, I have to get up and open the windows. I want to be able to see it from my bed. So that's personality-centered design. For somebody else who doesn't want the light to come in at all, not a problem. Either way, you put the drapes down. So if I was married to my husband is one of those people that doesn't want to see light, both of us have won in this situation because the light is not coming in his eyes. So those are the little tricks that we use. They're all principles that it's like, I don't know any other authority but the Bible. I call it my basic instructions before leaving earth.
Oh my goodness.
If you follow the principles in the same way like you follow the principles of design, you will get to this. It's not there is a lot of creativity, yes, don't get me wrong, but everyone has creativity for themselves because everyone is their own personal architects. I can't tell you what to like. Wow. I can only listen to you, be your heart with ears, listen to you what you like, and then interpret it because you don't have the design language and I do. So that's where we partner with people and individuals to ensure that their individualism is encapsulated within the design of their space for their own life quality to be improved or to be maintained.
Wow. Do you have another picture?
I have, well, I can show you one. This one it's been coming up because this is the one about decluttering.
Okay.
A lot of the time people hear declutter and they think they want me to throw my things away. I'm not throwing anything away. But I want you to see, if you look at the picture on the left, that's what the garage looked like. They moved homes, couple of homes, and there were so many things that people did not get to organize properly, and everything ended up here. If you see the other two pictures there, that's the place organized. Nothing in this garage was thrown away except a few cartons that were empty. But everything you see on the left has been rehoused on shelves and shelving units that did not exist before. So that's the only thing that was provided in this space to ensure that we could rehouse everything that was in the middle. So now this house, they can move their cars, can park, the car can park in the garage finally. And apart from that, where it increases the quality of some of the people's lives there. It's a home of five, family of 5. Now, any of the kids who want to locate the kettle that they brought back from school accommodation, they can find it because it's on a shelf. It's easy to reach. They're not going to spend 10 days looking for it and then going out in frustration to go and buy a new kettle. And everything that they thought was missing, they can now see them. Everything is within reach. Whereas on the first picture, you would never have guessed that there was a freezer in there.
Yeah, that's
because it was hiding behind all the cartons and things that were being dumped. Nobody could see it. And that's now for a totally disorganized place. We didn't have to throw anything away. So the only time when you hear decluttering and the person is throwing things out is because they want to, or maybe they have excessive in your personal, space, and you have 200 black shirts. Come on. And then some of them, you don't wear them anymore. Or you have 15 pairs of shoes that look exactly the same because you like them, or some that have they look worse for wear and they're still there in the wardrobe. There's really nothing they're doing there for you. Then you throw them away. But there are instances where decluttering does not mean discarding. It just means reorganizing and rehousing and creating, spaces to allow you have access to the things. The next picture I'm going to show you, this is now inside the house. And the way that this adds value to you is that I don't have to come in here looking for, let's assume now that this person wants to dress up and wants to take out a gym wear or something. She's not going, or he's not going to go looking through the wardrobe and wasting time. You need to be out of the house in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, but things have been arranged in such a way that even with the lights off, you know where it is. It saves you time. It helps you stay organized better. And you're not going to be running around helter-skelter looking for, I want tea. I have a guest, I want to make some tea. Then I'll go to the left, to the south of the kitchen, take the cup, come back to the north of the kitchen, put the hot water, come back to the beginning of the organization. Just helps you make your life a little more. When it's organized, you save time, you save money, and that's what I would share for now about getting your space organized.
Okay.
and being holistic about it, because it takes everywhere. Yeah, every part of your house, every part of your home.
Fantastic. Now, before we continue with the conversation, listen, please feel free to leave your comments, and I'm going to get to that question. Somebody just asked a question now. I'm going to get to the question, but what I want us to do is, Uche, if you don't mind, do you mind us going back to the garage picture? I just made some observations that I want to talk about. Now, the reason why this picture is very interesting to me is that a lot of the time when you hear about getting in a space organizer to look after your space, you're like, most of the time you see very lovely homes, and you see like, gosh, by the time they finish, it's aesthetic, you're going to spend money. But what I see here is just, you didn't do well. I can see you had storage units. But it's not, I even Ghana must go. I even see some Ghana must go back here. So what I see here is that did the person actually break the bank? Because sometimes when we talk about arranging, when your fear of bringing in a professional is that, they're going to ask me to remodel and redesign. Yeah. But in your instance, it's still the same place, a bit rough looking, but you just organize.
It's a garage. It's a garage. It doesn't represent the rest of the house. It's a garage, which is why it could be in this state for the time that it was. It doesn't affect anybody's life. The only area where it affects the person is when they need something that's in there. Okay. Then they spend the whole day looking for a needle in a haystack.
Story of my life.
so but you don't necessarily have to break the bank. At the end of the day, it all depends on you, on the person, and what is in the space that needs organizing and decluttering.
Perfect. Now, listen, I'm getting the drift because now I can see how having an organized space allows for better quality of life. I get it. But now I want to bring you home, and you know where home is, right? And when I bring you home, you know what I'm talking about. And in bringing you home, right, I'm also going to bring everybody to the table. So let me create a scenario here and tell me how we're going to handle this particular scenario. So assuming there is somebody living in Abonima Wharf waterside or Bundu waterside, or some high density, face me, I face you, living type condition inside what Morocco, what kind of coral area, right? And then with little or no economic might. And then, or we have a middle class person with, having to cope with constant power outages, humidity, generator noise, and mosquito bites. And then, or even just the top of the hierarchy, living person as well, someone who's, okay, upper class, but I'll be high class. But the person also experiences that rough and stress living condition in Nigeria. How can this concept make sense to them? I've given you 3 different structures of individuals.
First things first.
Yeah.
A principle is a principle.
Okay.
It doesn't change because your circumstance changed.
Okay.
A principle is a principle. If let me use having your windows or your doors and cross ventilation of air. If cross ventilation helps you breathe easier, whether you're in a shoebox or a mansion, cross ventilation helps you breathe easier. Now, the difference would be where one is able to afford air conditioning and another person is able to afford a fan and another person maybe none. Bottom line is, does cross ventilation help you breathe easier? Yes. So how do you get cross ventilation into a room? Is to leave the windows and the doors open to allow for the air.
Face me, I face you.
What are they going to do? It's either that or you die of heat. So most people, even if you were to say, oh, you want to help somebody who lives in a face me, I face you, organize their
normally,
space.
They normally have 6 children.
The best thing I can say to someone like that is to just make sure that your bed is not facing the door where as soon as you open the door, everybody walking through the corridor can see you. Make sure your bed is behind the door where if they pass, all they're seeing is the chair and the pots and I have no clue. I don't have the expertise, but I can tell you that those are the little tricks. Bottom line, a principle is a principle.
I like your honesty.
That's the truth.
Your honesty, yeah. So what about the other generator sounds and power outages and humidity and all of that?
Well, I didn't always live here. And my house in VGC, my generator was right by the front of where my own master bedroom was, right there by the door. So the best thing for it's not even the sound that was the main challenge. It's the vibration that comes from the generator when it's been on for a long time. That sound that you hear, that just, it's a sound that just starts to niggle at your, almost like a leaky faucet. After a while, you sometimes get used to the sound. But you see, it has a vibration and it affects from the foundation. Don't forget, it's standing on the ground as well. And so sometimes you might get that vibration all through to the house. So your best bet is to ensure, if your bedroom is on the same side as a generator, ensure that your bed, the headboard of your bed is on the opposite wall. Make it as far away from the generator as possible so that the vibrations don't hit directly to where your head is, because then you get the sound, the vibration, you get it more depending on where your bed is positioned. My room was the same. I mean, I had to have my bed on the other side of the wall that's away opposite. basically opposite the generator sound on the positioning of the gen. But then again, I can't use that as a valid comparison because there are other things like the quality, the size, and the texture of the curtains that you use on your windows. So at night, when your gen is on and the AC is on, you almost cannot hear the gen because those curtains, the heavy drapes, they block out not just light, they also block out sound, depending on which type of ones I use. And the very good quality blackouts that are sewn behind blinds also add to blocking out sound, not just light. Sometimes people, it's not common knowledge that the drapes help you block out sound. A lot of the time we think it's just the light, but it does help with the volume. You can test it out and see. If you have something on, shut the window and listen. Then shut your blinds if they're heavy and you have blackout, and then listen again. You will find that to be true. So there are just various principles of design that we use to trick our environments to make sure that we get the best out of it.
Okay, now let me ask you this question before I go to the audience question. And guys, please keep the questions coming. Thank you very much. Uche,
yes,
you talk about heavy blinds. You know how hot and humid Lagos, Nigeria can be. Like for me, I don't have blinds in my house. I mean, like I don't have heavy blinds. So we use that, we use this Venetian, I don't know what they call them, but those things that you can just flip up and flip down because number one, the dust, not everybody owns air conditioning 24/7. And that's why I said power outages. The cost of petrol or diesel is out of the roof. So in practically speaking, that's why I just felt this was very
but then again, you have to live within your confines. You have to understand. This is why we're talking about awareness before.
Yes.
You have to first be aware of your circumstances and what's obtainable. That's one. Secondly, the drapes don't produce heat. They're not on your body, they're on the wall. And so long as you have them in such a way that they can be opened, then it should not stop the quality of air that comes into your house. The only time that the drapes will have that problem is when you have to close your windows and shut your door.
Okay, now let me take some questions. Thank you everyone for your questions. This is very interesting. So Uche, let me take some questions. Now, someone says, is being organized the same as OCD?
I can tell you that most people who organize have a bit of OCD in them.
Obsessive.
But the obsessive compulsive disorder, right? The ones that are medically diagnosed have bigger problems and challenges. They're the people who wash their hands repeatedly because they felt that last time they washed it and they touched the tap is dirty again, or they turn off lights off and on repeatedly because they feel, they count things in numbers. So there's medical, and then there's the medical diagnosis, and then there's the regular, which almost every person who likes to be clean has a little bit of, to be able to even notice dirty places. You will be amazed at how many people you walk into a space and you can pick out a hairline, somebody's hair on the floor. And there are people who walk past there and, hairbrush, a whole wad of hairs on all over the floor, they won't notice it. So at the end of the day, I read one of the comments that Chiku said, you have to want to be tidy first. You have to know that it's affecting you first and then want it, Okay. So there are various ways there is a bit of OCD in everybody that does organizing. Okay. That's the first thing. So yes, I will answer that.
Okay, so another person says, so work within your confines. And I think this question came when we were talking about the face my face arrangement, because there was a face my face that I went to. I didn't know how they were coping. It's as if the whole house was falling. I could not breathe. They had broken mirror, old newspapers. If you see, my daughter and I, actually, my little girl, she said, Mom, I can breathe. I have to go out. I say, you might be kid. Why do you want to bring up my leg? And I'm thinking, how can people actually live like this?
That's why the education has to, that's why we have to keep talking. That's why we have to keep educating people about the value in living light and being clean.
Yeah.
I had a lounge in Lagos and I had about 23 odd staff, and I built a apartment for them at the back where they could, so that anybody who closed late would stay there. The very first day I went in there, after a while, I broke it down, because you can take a horse to the water. You can't.
You have said it all. You have said it all.
You can't force it to drink. If I didn't break it down, there was going to be a rodent infestation in the lounge, because they can't live. They can't, somebody has to first be educated as to the value and let them understand. And if they don't believe it, they're not going to run with it. So the person first has to understand, believe, and accept it. Then they start to integrate it into their own lives. That's the only time you will have change, which is why I said I don't have the bandwidth for "you face me, I face you." It starts with education. It's not even about it's not about their circumstance. It's about the person, because I had a maid once who, the cleaner, not a maid, the cleaner of my organization, who stayed in somewhere near Jakonde, for people in Lagos who know the places where they put their houses on sticks. It was one of the cleanest places I have seen in a very long time in any of those kind of environments. She had pictures on the wall. She had paintings. She had a bed neatly done. And the only reason I went there was because she had a sick child and hadn't come to work, and she was one of our best. So we went to visit her, and I was in shock what I saw. We got her out of that place to a better apartment.
Yeah, you go, girl.
It depends on the person. What I'm trying to say is, it has to do with the person. It has to do with their mindset. It has to do with what they know. And that's why this whole concept and education has to happen, for people to understand. And that decluttering does not mean throwing away. Organizing does not mean you have to spend all the money in the world to change. That's renovation. Let's call the thing what it is,
Okay, so organizing and renovation is not the same. Uche, this thing you're saying, right? It happened to me one time. I think I went somewhere and we went to a lovely house. And I think some people went with us. By the time we finished, the way somewhere is so clean, people actually spreading their underwears on the bed head, spreading wrappers on the bed head. I'm like, I had a fit. I was like, what is this? Do you not understand and appreciate beauty and aesthetics? So you're right in saying that sometimes, people need to be educated on things. And you're right that sometimes somebody can also have very little and do understand the power of cleanliness and. So let me read this other question. I really love the question. So I think because they're here, let's have the questions answered. So people have to want to be tidy to make whatever space they occupy work for them, regardless of their status. That's the starting point. That's fantastic. Now, somebody else is asked the same question that resonated with me. She says, I'm just wondering aloud how this principle can apply to a large majority in Nigeria living in a densely populated area. Those with bigger spaces can run with this principle successfully. To my mind, smaller spaces should just make the house neat. They obviously can't afford this luxury. So we talked about wanting to have.
That's about it. Yeah. So it's not even about the luxury at this point. So looking at the picture, if the picture that was painted was one of luxury, then that should be taken out of the mind completely, because it's not necessarily for the way it looked. It may have looked luxurious because what needed to be done was done. But if you were to go down to the nitty-gritty of how much each item in the pictures that I shared costs, it's nothing close to some of the designs that we've done where the people have bought specific pieces that maybe a bed, it costs $7,000-$10,000 and stuff like that. It's all relative. If what you can afford is a 4-poster bed that the carpenter by the side of your road fixed, it's a bed and you've got a mattress on it. Organize it, do it right. Put this. That's why I said principles are principles. They would work anywhere in the world because you are applying a principle. Now, nothing to do with the cost of what you're buying or how it looks, but we're talking about your quality of life for where you are and for your personality.
Yeah, Uche, I think you're right, because like I said about that face my face that I went to, and that's not the first time I'm going to face my face apartments, like really small, high density, low income, because I feel that somebody shouldn't have a broken mirror or like things that they have not used for a very long time. There's some things that I saw that were not, that needed to be thrown away in the dustbin. Honestly, I didn't think that those kind of aluminum plates, that they have holes. I mean, they shouldn't be in the house. But
if they were using them,
they were not using them.
No,
we're not using them. So I was wondering, why should all of these things be in the house when they can be thrown away? Then somebody says here, how can you groom them in terms of how can you, I suppose then she was, how do we educate people to live?
It's the training, and it's constant, it's continuous training, continuous. Like they say, charity begins at home. If you start with the people around you, start with the ones that work for you, start with the people that you have access to, then little by little, they can now teach their own people. It's paying it forward. And then, it goes around. But even if you were to say you are going to open a school for a training for women or for, where do you start? So it's more or less having those of us who are in the know, people who are, employers of labor, to start with the people in your own sphere of influence.
Okay, let me say this, right? And you're right in saying this. I had the girl that I loved so much that used to live with me. She was like a daughter to me. And she was very good at cleaning. She would clean everywhere. She would clean, in fact, the compound, we clean together. She cleans everywhere. When I go into her room, I jump out.
Yeah.
Sometimes I open her suitcase. One day, I was trying to, so you like to clean, what about your own things? I went into her room, some clothes that are dirty. She would mix the dirty and clean clothes together. Her bathroom, I said, love, how come you clean, but your room is like this? Then she just look at me and say, Mommy, I will clean it. I said, come off my front, So you're right in saying that sometimes, and I saw when you talk about your someone says your cleaners are the dirtiest human beings.
You have to understand that sometimes as well, it's a camouflage. It's a camouflage for something else that's going on with the person. And if the person doesn't see value in themselves, they know that you like it. This is what you like. So they would do it for you, but they don't feel that they themselves are valuable enough to look after themselves like that. So it's all part of mental health. It's all part of, unseen trauma that a lot of people are walking around with that they don't know is the cause. It's all part of being aware and understanding what those triggers are and your natural inclination towards them. Unless you're aware of something, you can't deal with it. You have to first know it, then know the language with which to express what it is, and then you can find help. So don't look at it like the person is the dirtiest. Yes, I've encountered so many. And I know for a fact that by the time you dig, you find out what the true reason for that. A lot of dirtiness comes from self-value and self-worth.
Really?
Yes.
Dirtiness.
That's the reason why you will find your teenage daughter, by the time she's getting to 16, 17 and is being noticed by the opposite sex, they start to change how they behave and carry themselves. The clothing starts with the clothes, and then the makeup joins, and then it becomes a pair thing, like, this is how we roll. But it starts from somewhere. When that child loses certain values or has experienced a certain trauma, then they hide. And until they see themselves as valuable, they won't want to do it for themselves. They do it because you're paying them to do it.
Uche, you said something that, again, hit the nail on the head for me. And I used to tell my children, and I tell it to my older daughters, that the way you live, your room, your house, reflects the value that you place on yourself. Because what you've just, I don't know whether it's unearthed or unearthed, I don't know the right words. Can you tell me the right pronunciation? Because what you have revealed is deeper than just cleaning. It's about what you have revealed is the psychology, the value that somebody places on that person as it reflects. And so that's what now manifests.
Exactly.
You talked about your teenage children. So I want us to talk about children now. And you said something in your bio. I read about you in your bio. And what I want to do now is to connect this question to avoiding later life crisis, because the whole of this series is about avoiding later life crisis. And so how can we manage our spaces or organize our spaces to have better quality, to maximize our quality lives now going forward? But I want to start from children. There's something that you wrote that caught my attention, and I'm going to read it. It's a little long, but I'll read it. We understand that every adult was once a child, and many are battling with the effects of unmet childhood needs slash trauma, which translate into their interactions within and outside the home. You talked about the teenage child, for example. Observing children in their abode aids early detection and intervention of trauma-causing events for which they may not have the language, allows provision of recovery, special support, and the development of skills which helps build resilience for future integration and mental health.
Yeah.
Uche, I know this is quite long, but I want us to talk about how all of these translates into a child and his living space. Okay.
So let me put out a caveat first, and I'm going to do a small definition so that we're on the same page. When I mention spirituality, so nobody thinks I'm about to start preaching.
Okay.
Because this is not a church, it's not a religious, but when I say spiritual, I will be strictly speaking in laboratory terms.
Okay.
Commodities or qualities that can be measured are physical, like your skin color. You can go to a lab and they give you the hues or your weight or how much hair you have on your head, etc. But for spiritual commodities or qualities, those are like integrity, optimism, creativity, or the experience that you get from interacting with an environment. And that's what concerns us today. How your space feeds you. It's a spiritual, you cannot express it, you can't quantify it, you can't qualify it, but you will interact with a space in a way that either feeds you spiritually or causes you to look for it somewhere else. Okay. Now, we cannot actually avoid pain, because pain, like joy, it's part of the world. You have to understand joy to know sadness. You must have something to compare it with. So life cannot be lived with the notion that you will avoid pain completely. No. I understand where we're getting to, is that we want to be able to avoid crisis, right? So that pain, if it does happen, you're able to catch it early when you're dealing with children. When you walk into, when we go into a space of family home, for instance, and we're trying to get them to decorate or redecorate or reorganize, whatever the case may be, and there are children involved in the house. The way the child reacts, the way they interact with the space, the way you'll find some children they say the child is private, doesn't like to come out. Sometimes it's not the case, especially where you hear, oh, she used to be such a playful child, all of a sudden she just doesn't like to come out of her room. She doesn't like to, you can tell some based on the interaction and the conversations that we have. I studied children and young people's mental health. So there are specific support that you give. There specific questions, and there are guidance. There's guidance that you can, guided questioning that you can have to help the child articulate what they're feeling, because they don't know. You would be able to identify abuse. You'd be able to identify when a child is being bullied from their home. And if they don't feel seen in their own home, if they feel, don't forget that people who groom children threaten them as well. Now, sometimes the circumstances are external, but there are also times where those circumstances are internal. They're caused by internal friction within the person, whether you're a child or an adult. And the ones where, there's no lack of clarity of your own experience, or you don't have the language to describe what was going on, or they felt that you even felt you were being ignored, but you don't really realize that you were not being ignored. But that's the feeling that you got because it wasn't communicated. Nobody knows is any wiser what is going on with the child or with the young person or with the adult. You're just like, I bet she's always angry. I just go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds. All of those things sometimes have the internal friction or external factors that are behind it. Okay. I was listening to a podcast, BBC 5. Nikki Campbell was having an interview with some guy called Alex Renton, who, by the way, went to college with Boris Johnson. Now, these are men in their 50s. And this man was recounting an experience that he had when they were in college. And he was crying. He did not expect it to hit him like that. But he broke down.
Oh my gosh.
And he was crying. And the guy, Alex Renton, he said, yeah, Boris Johnson was in his school there. There's no way he did not experience it because all of them went through it. This is where you find people facing systemic cover-ups. And how do you expect that person as an adult not to be the same? And the Nikki Campbell, you can listen to it. It's different. His podcast is called Different by Nikki Campbell. It's on BBC 5. And he said that he told his mother, and at least his mother tried to do something about it. But guess what? He went back to the same school. He was sent back. These are people in elitist education. What about us who were people in Nigeria, for instance? How many parents did your child will say, I don't want to go to school. I have a tummy ache. This is wrong with me. That is, my friend, you're going to school. You're going back because we're strong people. And what happens in this house stays in this house. And then the person grows up and is an adult, and all they want is to make all the money in the world so they don't depend on another person ever. And then you think it's greed, or you think the person. So bottom line, when you talk about avoiding later life crisis, I am of the opinion that I may not be able to help any adult. But guess what? As much as I am able, and as God gives me the grace, I am interested in helping the children get in front of this narrative and find ways that they can now form the resilience that they need to accept themselves, because a lot of it comes from acceptance. And when a child or a young person or someone, especially with abuse, you turn around and say, well, I must not be worth anything, because if this is how this person treated me, and this is who I must be. It takes a lot of reverse psychology. It takes a lot of re-education. It takes a lot of spiritual affirmations for that person to start to see themselves as valuable. And that's the only way that we can change certain trajectories. And as an adult, it takes you becoming aware of what it is that has happened to you that has caused you to have these certain triggers.
Fantastic.
And you must find help for yourself, unfortunately.
Now, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Now, but what I want us to do, because you and I had a conversation, you talked about how even the way a child interacts with a space can reveal. So in practical terms, you said sometimes, like when you create a space for a child, in a house where there are a lot of, like in the family home, and you create a space for the child, the kind of things that the child, for example, if the child likes to draw or the child likes to do certain things, that you're able to pinpoint what the child is going through their interaction in their space. So that's what I want us to focus on.
Okay, so sometimes, especially children who are artistic, I grew up with a very artistic brother who turned out to be an architect. Thank God he used it. And I know that when we were growing up, he would have like his exercise books. From the front would be mathematics. From the back, he would draw everything you can think of on this earth: cars, different action figures. And later in life, from studies and evaluations and different things, we've come to realize that children who are artistic sometimes they pour their hearts out on their art. And when my kids were small, when they were little, I used to like have a wall in the corridor where I would paint it black, put the paint, the crayons, and the things that are cleanable so they can draw on there. And sometimes you would find a child come and the drawing people, killing people and shooting somebody, and you look at the disparity between the big person they're drawing and the small person, and you're wondering, is this a scenario of David and Goliath? But by the time you start to have conversations with the child, you find out that there's a big child in class that's bullying everybody. And this is how he beats that big child up. Is by drawing what he will do to the child. Now, if this thing is not addressed and these children grow, and maybe, unfortunately for this big child now in primary 1, in primary 5, these other children have grown up and they're as big as him, they'll probably beat him up for all those times when he was. So it's a reverse psychology of, trying to understand what's going on in the mind of the child, understand why they're coming to you as a parent to say they don't want to go to school. It doesn't mean that there aren't times when children are just playing truant. But what I'm saying is, sometimes we need to pay attention.
Yeah. And, Uche, these are huge nuggets. Because again, you just said something that even just by the drawings of a child, the David and Goliath situation, you would be able to pinpoint. And again, that is through the interaction of the child's space with even just a pen and paper.
Yeah.
Be able to pinpoint if the child is being bullied in school and stuff like that. So that's very good.
And also sometimes, there are children that are born with extra creativity.
Yeah.
And they need a lot of engagement.
Yeah.
So how you decorate a room for such a child and how you decorate for an introverted child are not the same. You will never be able to you can't put a one size fits all type of decorum, like, blue is for boys and red for girls, pink for, it doesn't work. That's where personality comes in. But they're also people. We tend to forget that because they're little, they're just smaller than you, but the faculty is there. You will be amazed at what a 5-year-old would tell you.
Yeah.
If you treat them like they have a brain and you're listening to them, you're not doing the cuckoo kaka, you're talking to the child, they will talk back to you. And even as us adults, the quality of your life, if you want to know what's going on with me and you check my room, you will find things that are not in place, then you know that there's something going on with me.
You're right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just read some of the questions here. And thank you so much, listeners, for my darling audience, for keeping the questions coming. And really, if you're watching this program and you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibi Ibi. I want you to help me grow my channel. Let's get up to 1,000 subscribers, you know, help my ministry and help this girl, encourage me to ginger me to do more. So let me ask this question. So how can we create a space that induces healing?
First, awareness. You have to first know what you want healing from. Did you know that there are over 40 life events that cause grief?
Yes. Yeah. We talked about it in my show last week.
Thank you. So
2 weeks ago,
some people don't even realize that just moving home, the home they moved from as adults, and you've moved several times, you don't realize that each time you're living a piece of something, you haven't allowed yourself the time to debrief your spirit of the last space. You've come into the next one and it's gone, go, let's go. So first is awareness. You have to first be aware of what it is you need healing from. And nobody can tell you but you whether you're okay or not. You're the only one who knows that. And this narrative that we try to, you know, I'm really just tired of comparison. It's both a calling and a purpose killer. The fact that Ibi appears like this on screen doesn't mean you don't have problems. Maybe for me, I've got my anchor is what is my anchor. That's the only reason why I may probably have got out of my bed. But what you see is one page and you think, so you don't want to say, I have this problem and get help. Let's not allow the things that we know deprive us of what we don't know. Do you get? And it's for the adults. Nobody can tell you but you if you're okay. And there is help. The truth is that there is help. It's all over, but we just don't want to seek it because we don't want to appear like we're the ones with a problem. But all of us have problems. There's nobody here. There's nobody that doesn't. So.
Yeah, can I just say something? I think, let me just say this also to answer this question, right?
Yeah.
And that says that how can we create a space that induces healing? I think that sometimes, like, I think you're right in saying that we all have problems, because you can imagine a billionaire that has, you know, one of the most, you know, they have houses and they have, you know, very lovely apartments. They have, you know, the money to create the most serene environment as they want. And you find them being on antidepressants, you find them dying by their own hands, you find them on drugs. So I think at the end of the day, while it's important for us to have good space management, we have to deal with
the
what is inside of us to be able to fix our externals, right? Yes, but again, that doesn't mean that the externals don't work. Now, let me also take this comments. It says here, we have systematic flaws from the primary state of housing. The term face me, I face you, low-cost housing has been used over the years to describe squalor, substandard housing, or accommodation that drives the user to mentally accept filth as the standard for that class or the level of living. We must use uplifting terms like affordable housing to give it more dignity and in turn responsibility to and for the user. Thank you very much. And somebody here says, we have our parents to thank for being tidy, because it is now in our DNA and we can't be dirty or disorganized. Paying it forward is easy, but the application by the receiver is hard, solely dependent on the receiver.
Yeah.
And someone says, I agree. Now, another person has this thing, this comment. She says, it is only the middle class, upper middle class and the rich that can understand this discussion. 1% of the poor may understand. Having an organized, clean space is cultural. The poor and the very poor can't understand this until Nigerians, our local government make cleanliness a cultural thing and provide decent accommodation for all, which resonates with what the other person has said. This discussion will not apply to a majority of the very poor. We do not even have dustbins in public spaces in Nigeria to start with. I rest my case.
And I would say to the person who wrote that comment, very good comment, quite by the way, it starts with me, it starts with you, it starts with the person in the mirror. Do you have a dustbin in front of your own house? So that the people passing in front of your house will find a place to throw it in? We have to do it, we have to start. There's no government coming to do for us. And that's why I said we need to start with the people in our own sphere of influence. Uche. Let's be the ones that teach
Uche.
And do these things ourselves.
Uche, there was a day, the last time I went to Lagos, I was coming from the airport. You know that airport road?
Yeah.
The governor had fixed the airport road. I saw some people just emptying their
bin. Yes.
So what this person is saying is right. Can you imagine somebody just emptying, the drains, just pouring things in the gutter? So even when you have those bins available, some people just prefer. Which, have you been to Port Harcourt lately? If you go to Port Harcourt
last year,
if you go to Port Harcourt lately, Port Harcourt City, you would weep.
Yeah.
Now, somebody says here, creatives, we never understand them enough. Cleanliness is not class-based. Some rich folks are also very dirty.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. Now, I want us to, the aim of this conversation is that at the end of this conversation, our viewers will be able to identify their triggers, understand their tendencies, and recognize the life-enhancing skills we can bring into our space or our spaces. So can you tell us, how we can do this so that we can avoid a later life crisis in the future?
I don't know that we have enough time.
We have just 17 more minutes.
To be able to visit the entirety of what.
But do an article now. Do an article so we can put it in the website.
Yeah, but I can confidently say that each person, reviewing their own personal circumstances, because don't forget, it's holistic and personality-centric design. It's not a one-size-fits-all. Every person has their own triggers. Every person has their own experiences, and every person has their own level that they want to be. To what is success to me may not be the same definition that you have. So at the end of the day, what's most important is being able to identify where the person is, and then doing the research to find the help that they need. How can your space help you identify what your triggers are? For someone who is naturally tidy, someone who needs things to be in specific places for them to be able to thrive, if the environment where they live is in disarray, there's no way they will be happy. There's no way they will be productive, because they will first spend all their time getting it up to a certain standard where they can live in peace before they go out to work.
Yeah.
So what's important is knowing yourself and knowing your triggers, and then finding the help that you need to get it to a certain standard that you can live with when you live with other people. If you live alone, it makes your life easier, because now the minute you walk into the house and you're dropping things in different places, then for a fact that there's a problem, because sometimes these problems they hide. You don't even realize that the way somebody spoke to you yesterday has triggered something in you that you did not realize, and you're just walking around gruffy and grumbling at every little thing without facing what is really the problem. But the point is being able to check with yourself at every time, like, I just chewed this person's head off, but what they said wasn't as bad. What's causing this? It always is. That's why, the whole of life is integrated. If your spirit man is strong, then every other thing starts to strengthen. Look at it like the spinal cord that holds the spine up. If there's a damage, then every other part will start to suffer. So your environment is the first port of call before you step out to meet the world. What happens in there is what helps you either thrive or struggle. So organizing your space in the way that it serves you and the people in close proximity with you, if you share the space with other people, is what holistic space management does. But it's not something I can give you the full pointers on the screen here, because everybody here is different, and their needs are different.
Okay.
So
Fantastic. Now, somebody says here, thank you to Ibi and the speaker. I found this discussion very interesting. As simplistic as we think it is one of the biggest problems in Nigeria, filth. Yeah. And somebody asked this question: how do we get our husbands, our housemates, kids, husband or wife, LOL, to be as tidy as we are, or should we just let it be? Let me just say this. Do you know what? Let me just say this, right? And my children will kill me, right? Me, I like a clean space. I like cleaning, I like mopping, I like scrubbing, right? Because once the place is untidy, like something in my brain used to just spark like this.
Knock.
I see two engines are just touching, two wires. So one day I was having a conversation with my friend, and my friend now said, so make up your mind. What do you want? Do you want for the children to come and they are happy? Or do you want that every time you're screaming your kitchen is untidy? Choose what you want. So for me now, I have balanced. I now have a balanced, what is it called? Because sometimes if something is out of place, I get angry. But life has to be lived. Our life, like the house can't look like a hotel. You understand? You can imagine like 6 people living in one space. Of course, the throw pillows and chairs will be untidy. So for me, this is what I have come to realize. Because the other day we had a conversation. I was speaking in a program about empty nests, right? And I think I'm beginning to experience that empty nest. You know, I didn't allow the spirit to enter inside of me. That sometimes when the children leave home, then the house is as clean as you left it. You know what I mean? So sometimes I just feel that this is where I've come to now. And to be honest with you, my cupboard is not as clean as it used to be, because I just want to live in peace and not kill my life, you know? So sometimes I just leave it so that I will rest. But that's not to say that I like chaos. But sometimes for people to live with you in peace, you just have to let certain things be and get people to come and clean the house. You know, I don't know.
Well, there is clean and then there's organized. So you have to decide which one it is.
I don't know again, but sometimes you get sometimes you not for your rest.
If you provide a place for everything, then it's easy to get it tidy quickly by yourself if your housemates are not helping. But if you know that you have a place for things, you have a place where you put all the throws, you have a place where you put children's toys go in that den, this one goes there. If you come and find them everywhere and the kids are probably maybe gone out and you want to have a drink and watch TV, it will be easier for you to tidy it when you have a place for everything.
Yeah.
So first get organized, and let's talk about tidying it or cleaning it later. You can do cleaners.
So organizing and tidying are different things. I remember when my kids were little, you see that thing that they call Lego. I decided that, you see, 2 things I decided not to buy again. If I come my next world, I'm not buying Lego. Their dad buys this big Lego box for them. Under this, listen, and we have boxes where you can keep the things on the staircase. He said, at a point, I was like, this thing is driving me nuts. I just carried the Lego and put them in bin. Let me rest. Lego, Pringles. Those things. I said, you know what? Never. But again, so there's a difference then between cleaning and organizing. Organizing is where you have everything in place.
First, have them in place, then you can think about the cleaning.
Oh,
but at least if everything is in place, then you see what to clean, right? If it's not in place, are you going to throw them all away? So
you're right. But not when you have everything in place still, and children still have to be children. Now, let me read this comment here. Somebody says, now I know I'm not mad. I thought I lived alone with this cleaning thing. I live here very fulfilled. Thank you, Ibi and Uche. No, you're not mad. So this question is like, so how do we get our housemates, kids, and all that to get to be as tidy as us? What do we do?
You just keep talking now. You keep talking.
You look like the rebel lunatic.
You keep talking. You keep doing. My solution. I did a series on LinkedIn called "Lived in a Picture Perfect." Right.
Yeah.
My solution is before I go to bed and when I wake up. So sometimes that's my workout for the morning.
Okay.
Is to walk around and pick up and tidy. But guess what? I can do it faster because I know where they're going. Okay. There's a place, everything has. So if I come into the living room and the pillows are on the floor and this one is here because some children have been around and they've watched TV and they've thrown things around, I know where they are going. So it's easy to organize it if you can't call them to do it. But I usually match everybody like a soldier, I become a warden.
You have the whistle.
Let's go.
Now, Uche, quickly, I just want to ask one more question and then we'll go. Right? No, two questions, because I don't want us to overstep our time. There's something that you said, we were having a conversation and I felt it was very important. You talked about, you connected cleaning to gratitude. You know, when you talked about it, like how sometimes when you begin to clean out your drawers, you clean out the kitchen cabinet and it gives you the time to kind of like, oh, thank God that I have this, thank God that I have that. I want us to maybe even just put texture to the cleaning. It's a practice that is good, isn't it?
It's a beautiful practice, but it has to be one, you have to be that that way inclined. So it still comes back to awareness. Some people that's not going to do it for them. Do you get? For me, I am the kind of person that when I am conflicted about a decision, or anything that doesn't allow my creativity to flow and I'm unable to focus, I take a room and I start to take it apart. That's how I recenter myself. Now, if you're someone who likes to have places cleaned and you like to do it yourself, like for instance, I tell anybody who knows me knows I cannot iron to save my life. But I can start washing the plates of everybody's house on my streets. I can start in the morning and be washing just the thought of water going through my hands. It does something for me. So you have to first find that thing you do around your home that feeds you, that makes you happy. And if it is watching someone do the cleaning, then please, by all means, employ somebody to do the cleaning while you watch. It will help you clear your mind and clear,
Oh my God, Uche, listen, Uche, we may have to do a part two. I don't know, let me not promise. You see that thing about cleaning. One time, right, I went into my son's room and my son wasn't really cleaning his room. And one day I took it upon myself. He's a big boy now. And I began to clean his room. As I was cleaning his room, I was crying. I brought out what I swept out of that room. And as I was cleaning, I began to pray. I was cleaning, I was praying. I was cleaning. After I finished cleaning and I prayed, for me, it was like a deliverance. You understand what I'm saying? So, so sometimes, like you said, so what you're saying to me, resonates with me in the fact that sometimes when you want to pray for your children, sometimes you kind of like clean. As you're cleaning, you're praying. As you're checking through your kitchen cabinet, you're saying, I even have this meat, or I have this, food. Father Lord, I thank you. That's an angle we have to do.
Especially when I wake up and I'm feeling deflated about what I'm supposed to do that day, or some things haven't gone the way I planned or expected. It helps me put things in perspective to know that look at the things that I'm cleaning, the areas that's what the gratitude was about. It's like when I was when I wanted these things, now they're here. You're not touching them. You're not using them. You're just sitting them. But that act of cleaning and, reorganizing the space that I was working on actually brings my mind back to a center where I can actually be grateful for. That thing didn't work the way I wanted it, but here's what worked. This one, I wanted it and it worked and it's here. I have tangible proof, so I can be grateful for that. And it helps me reset my mindset as to, what needs to happen next with regards to what it is that I was thinking of. So, yeah.
This is deep, isn't it? Perspective, avoiding later life crisis through the arrangement of our spaces. Now, let me just quickly, I think I should read some of these comments. It's lovely. Says here, really lovely and useful session. Thank you so much. And I must say that Uche has helped my teenage children in boarding school to organize their work, know what to do, focus on, and know where they have work falling through the cracks. Part 2 needed. And Uche, quickly, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, how would they get in contact with you?
So it's under my name. You see the link tree, the Wellbeing C. That's actually that's my that's the link that you need. It has everything: my email, websites, Instagram, all the social.
Yeah, but what's the social media handle? So in case somebody just types in.
Okay, let me share that with you.
You can just say so that they can go check you out on Facebook, or do you have a website?
Yeah, if the link tree at the Wellbeing C, that's it.
Wellbeing C.
When you click on that, you will get all my, you will get the Instagram, Facebook, everything is there.
Okay, fantastic. So
on link tree, yeah.
So thank you so much, guys. Listen, if this is your first time of seeing this program, I have a website called ibinaboandnabi.com. I have articles. Uche, would you do an article for us on ibinaboandnabi.com?
Sure.
Fantastic. And please, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's Ibinabo and Nabi. Help this sister grow her channel. And next week, I have yet another interesting conversation. And I want you to be part of it. And somebody says part 2, please. But
I must give you kudos, Ibi, because I watched one of your sessions and I met my grief recovery specialist on that session. And I can assure you that it has been mind-blowing working with her.
Gulam Fernandez. Yeah.
Gulam Fernandez.
Yeah. So guys, listen, I have several topics on the several episodes on the avoiding later life crisis. Check it out. So we had Gulam Fernandez and Ejiro Ogbavoyen. Fantastic. We talked about dealing with life's pressures. Fantastic. We had Mercy Edu. In fact, Mercy Edu was the one that started this conversation of avoiding later life crisis. She talked about organizing your affairs. And then I had a financial expert, and I had somebody talk about marriage. The video will be up. Please, ladies, share the videos, share my channel. There's a lot to learn. And listen, thank you so much. Someone says, will do. Thanks, Uche Ibi. Someone says, thank you, Uche, though I got in late. I still got something. Ibi, kudos. And part 2, please. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to my channel. And Uche, I'm going to call you. And bye, everybody. Bye.